Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Day After Podcast.
Yeah. So Ryan's not going to win. Ryan, it's outright that Ryan's not going to win. You do that to me, Jeff? Huh? You going to do that to me, Jeff?
Nice standing impression there of Robert De Niro impression, I believe. I think he was doing the Robert. It seemed like Robert De Niro. I don't know.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
He said the De Niro thing. Jeff didn't had no idea what to do with that. He was
yeah,
like, his improv just went right out the window. Whereas
yeah.
I just want to snuff your George.
Yeah. But yeah, we're coming at you with this episode though, episode 11 and 12 coverage because we weren't able to review it last week, and this is now like the earliest time we could do it is right after we just saw episode 12. So we're gonna cover both episodes here. And if you're looking at Ryan's name right now, you can tell that somehow his last two people did go out back to back, keeping him away from having anyone in the finale.
Just look at this. Just look at this. If you can read this, you can see that every single person I drafted was eliminated before the finale, which
Yeah,
statistically is very hard to do.
yeah. That means that you had just a god awful draft.
I mean, I was smart about who I chose.
Yeah,
It's just your strategy of going with people that I don't want to say shouldn't win, but like what you did, where it was like, oh, out of the blue, just like I'm gonna go with my gut and pretty much pull a George Costanza and just do the opposite.
yeah.
Actually panned out, and your top three are still in the top five of this game. And it's very likely that one of the three is going to win, if not your number one pick.
Yeah. Yeah, literally, I was like, well, Tika is clearly going to be the weakest tribe. I'll just draft a bunch of Tika people. They're crazy. Like, most of them are crazy people who have no chance of winning, yet somehow they ended up being in the tribe that has a power position in this game. Yeah, so maybe this is just what we got to do from now on. We gotta take Gabler's lesson into our advice and just pick the people who we think
Uh,
have who are just crazy, who have no chance because nowadays it doesn't matter, you take out all the big threats right before and suddenly bam, you can be a big you can win the game. Who knows?
Here's the thing: preseason, there's two people that you have that are left where I'm like, okay, they could definitely probably win. One was Carson, but Carson was like one of those things where it was just truly threat equity, how that was going to play out and everything. And the other one was Lauren. And it's mostly because of one thing. There are four people on the buff, and they're modeled off of contestants from this season. Lauren is the most prominent person on the buff because there's, a lady up front, with big curly hair, and that's clearly Lauren.
Hmm.
So, uh, it could be alluding to her winning this game. So, like,
I mean, if the winner was decided by how they made the buff,
well, I mean, like, it's a thing where some people always theorize that.
yeah, I think the bigger theory that I do have credited is this math theory, and Jam Jam is looking very
Very good.
strong as a winner. Like I'm just already picturing him now as like a winner. Like he just seems like he's got such a great edit for winning. He is literally always telling us that if you vote him or say his name, you're ending up on the jury. He even mentioned that again in this episode to Jamie. He was talking about that. So like that's just such a good story when he gets to the end, and to already be such a likable social guy who clearly a bunch of people out there like him. Um, yeah, he's going to be a big threat, and I think he's now made it so that Carolyn and even Carson are almost more like targeted if they are to lose a Tika one or two Tika people before the final three.
Yeah, because in the past two episodes, we have seen Jam Jam wanting to get rid of, well, I mean, like more so targeting Carolyn because she's become much more of a liability. And then Carson, Carson is a smart cookie. You know, he's gonna his like threat equity, especially with the five that are left, is probably, if you look just based on paper and appearances, probably the number one threat.
Mhm.
Um, Granted, Lauren has gone up in threat equity, having two wins. And obviously Jam Jam being like very, very social and everything, he has a good shot of winning. But Jam Jam's obviously not going to go for himself. He's like, no, he's going to put the focus on. I see him betraying his fellow Tika members, and he
Mhm.
was considering it the past two episodes, but he's like, no, it is smarter to keep them around.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting right now because I mean, yeah, you got to take out one of the next Tika members. I think would be the right decision for Jam Jam is to take out Carolyn next episode because at Final Five because she's probably not winning an immunity. She's clearly I think the least physical person out there, and Final Five immunity has typically been the big like physical challenge where you do like a giant obstacle course kind of thing with some puzzle elements near the ends.
Yeah,
So I imagine we're going to get something like that, which I would probably say Carson or Jam Jam or Lauren are more likely to be the winners of that challenge. So Carolyn would be an easy go there. And then it's really just how do you take out Carson at five? Because Carson would then be the next big threat of if he makes it to the end, he could potentially be able to talk his way into winning the game. Um, so that would probably then have to be his next big move is does he put himself into fire? Does he convince someone to get him into fire? Or does he think, Lauren or Heidi are able to outdo him? Because I mean Carson does seem like he's going to be good at fire. Like
yeah,
he's got to be at least one of the top two people out there right now
I
in
agree.
fire.
Just in general, like if we're talking, top three, very premature, but like if we're talking like the people that are going to win this game, it's a Tika member, it's Jam Jam, then Carson, then Carolyn. But like, it's like Carson is number two on that list, and that's partially due to like how well he knows this game, how well he's practiced some of these things. Like you don't think the man that 3D prints all these things hasn't practiced fire as well. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. He's definitely going to be well equipped. I don't know if he'll be like Gabler fast where he like sets a record or anything, but I would definitely expect him to not be pulling like a Becky or Sundra of going forever. He's gonna, I wouldn't be surprised if at least the fire catches within a 3 to 5 minute time period of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you don't know if it's Final Four and Carolyn. Let's just talk about back in the first episode in this two-parter we're talking about the lobster lady that is Carolyn. It's like, oh, I found this little hat, from a shedded lobster thing, and then she found her, coke nail lobster, uh, lobster thing, her coke nail. Um, you never know. And like we've seen in this episode, in the past couple episodes, like they're starting to grow wise that like, oh wait, Carolyn's not just this kooky person. She has a lot of brains behind her. And like, not saying that a kooky person can't have brains behind her, but in this game, a lot of the focus have been on other people, and people are starting to like really realize how smart she is. And then it's like, yeah, we kind of have to get rid of her now.
Yeah.
But it's all about this timing. Which I do feel like once we get to final three, because Lauren even talked about it, it's like there's so many things you're balancing when you're at this like final six spot. you're like, oh, I feel like who do I not only want to bring in the end or keep, but it's like, oh, well, will Carolyn bring me? Lauren was talking about that. And it's like, I say past seven, you really, really started thinking about this end game because it's like, all
Mhm.
right, it's a 1 and 2 shot that everyone will make it to the finale. So it's like, how is that going to all work?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I also want to say, I watched episode 11 down in LA with a friend who has not seen this season at all. He doesn't really watch Survivor. But I wanted to watch the episode and he was in the room, so he was like, I'll watch it with you. And he both loved Carolyn and hated her at the same time. When she started with the claw and was like, like talking, it was just like so like what is happening, like who is this person. Oh, Ryan has disappeared. Okay, we are back. Yeah, I was just talking about how yeah, my friend didn't really watch Survivor, didn't watch the season, and found Carolyn just as both great entertainment, but just like he like just couldn't stand her. Like he understood why she was great to, like for Survivor, but her craziness came off. But like by the end of the episode, by the way, he was like, Carolyn's winning this game.
It's a big, possibility. I'd say, like I said, 1 and 3, 1 and 5 shot. Well, 1 and 3 just based on like a
Yeah.
Tika method. Tika member is probably winning it. But like, it's one of those things where, look, I've come around on Carolyn, and it's honestly the stuff where she's more grounded that I like about her.
Hmm.
Like, this was something I just someone shared in this Facebook group I'm in, but it was like her and her son and talking about how her son's like father had like her sober had his sober birthday. And it's like basically, this is how many like years this guy's been sober and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And how she was like, talking with her kid and then being like, oh, why is this important stuff? And like seeing that side of her, I'm like, I like this Carolyn way better than it's like, I'm like, Carolyn, you're a cool person. You don't I know it's part of you to be the like,
Yeah, she's
out
she's
there
being
kind of person.
unapologetically herself out there.
Yeah, but like I also like this part of you where, you know, the part where you're telling your story of like how you are like, recovery and how like you built yourself up from this. Like that's my favorite part about you.
Yeah, well, that can be your favorite part, but I think that's what makes her such a great player is her complexity. Is the fact that she is viewed as that crazy lady who is the Nora, who it just seems like she's got a few screws loose, and doesn't really know what's going on. But she is actually very emotionally intelligent. She's very strategically intelligent. She has a lot more brain power than I think a lot of people would expect from a first impression. And to me, that is actually what I enjoy about Carolyn is the fact that she has that duality to her.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like definitely the biggest takeaway from this, like if we're talking about like obviously we talk about the big Tika 3 and whatnot, but if we're talking about like their impact on this season, those three are pretty much the main characters.
Yeah.
And like Carolyn from like literally minute one was established as someone important. And like, I feel like while Tika, encapsulates so much of this season, Carolyn was such a big impact on this where I feel like down the line, it's like word association where we think of like, all right, you name a season and then the first person that comes to mind. I feel like Carolyn is probably going to be like at least 60% of the time what people are going to say when
Yeah,
someone's like, name a contestant from this season, and they say 44, and it's like, oh, Carolyn. Because like,
yeah.
she's just like an iconic person.
Yeah. I would say most people are going to say Carolyn. I think there's going to be some people who do say Jam Jam, and then I think Carson has like the specific like young per people like nerdy guys are going to probably maybe think Carson, but I think the majority of people are going to kind of view this as Carolyn's season, whether or not she wins. Even if she gets to the end and gets 0 votes, I think that she has been the main character of the season. Like whenever something is like going down, it is let's listen to what Carolyn has to say about this, or what does someone have to say about what's going on with Carolyn. We're rarely getting other like people talking about other players. It seems like no matter what, someone is always talking about what Carolyn is doing, which is very good sign for winners. Most winners have a lot of people talking about them as someone important because they want to know how a bunch of people are feeling about a certain person.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, uh, it's definitely possible. Like like I said, like we keep saying, out of the five that are left, she is definitely. The thing is, it's like we say, oh, she has like she's number three on the list of like people that are probably going to win, but like kind of like the confessional count, like the gap is so wide because Lauren may win as like a what is it as in like a dark horse where it's like
I
like
don't even think it's possible for her to win now because she's now guaranteed to sit at the end with a Tika. She has to now beat
a
either
Tika
Carson,
member.
Jam Jam, or Carolyn at the ends.
It's like a Ryan Johnson twist if it does happen, where
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. And Heidi, especially after this episode when she wasted her idol,
Yeah,
I'm like,
she threw away any chance of her having a game. Like she literally just like uh put out her lit cigarette onto the ground, stomped it a bunch, and then walked away. Like that was effectively what happened in this episode. And I have been in like the maybe I guess you could say Heidi haters of where I don't really think she's been playing a good game. Some podcasters I've been seeing for like most of the season were like hyping Heidi up. They were like, Heidi is playing such a good game. No one is going after Heidi. And they
I mean,
thought she was
Heidi's a
like doing
very
so good.
interesting person. Like,
Yeah.
after meeting her and getting to
Yeah.
know her and stuff, like,
Yeah.
I thought Heidi was really, really cool. But like
Yeah.
this,
But I think you can be a great person and just not be good at Survivor. And I think that's what Heidi is. I think she's a
this,
great person, but she has shown very little strategic acumen in the game. Whenever she is given the chance to make an impact in the game, she always somehow chooses the worst way to do
yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, it's like she played the idol and didn't need to. The whole twist with granting someone safety and stuff had, if anything, if they were gonna vote that way back when, they weren't going to do it out of like spite. Whereas like, oh yeah, you want this to happen? Okay, well we're voting Matt out anyway now. Screw
Yeah.
you. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. It was only going to hurt her to play it. Yeah, and by her being like, Tika, I'm with you guys. I'll be your fourth. I mean, she's not beating two Tika members at the end. Like, maybe she gets like a random vote from Soka to get like the runner-up spots, but that is like her best like scenario is that which is upsetting because pre-game she was saying she's not going out here for a second, third, fourth, any of that. She's out here to win, and she just made the move to get a second or third or fourth slot right now.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, her game just kind of fell apart. And sometimes that happens. And at that point, you just gotta play to try and get third or second. Like,
Yeah,
In competitive things, sometimes, like, you see things are falling apart and you want to throw in the towel, but at the same time, it's like, if I can stretch this out a little bit longer, especially because you get more money by doing it that way, it's just what you got to do.
Yeah. But the thing is it could have been similar to how Gabler won in 43. At Final Six, Cody, Carla, and Jesse were clearly the three in control. They clearly were the power players. And by having them all go up back to back to back at Final Six onwards, it opened up the spot for who anyone's game. Any one of these three can now win the game. And Heidi could have been someone to get to the final three with her, Lauren, and Jamie. And if she was able to, she would be able to, I think, have a better chance and at least be able to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, look at this." But she didn't want that avenue. She didn't want to be against the two people who can't win the game. She wanted to be her ideal final three. What she told us in episode 12 here is Jam Jam and Carol.
I don't know. I don't
Right,
know
because
what.
that is a massive misread of who you want to sit next to.
I mean, at the end of this episode, it's like I said, it's like you look at the people that are still here. Only thing that like maybe Jamie has going for her is like, all right, well, there's a lot of Soka people on the jury. Maybe, that can like work in my favor. And that's like a huge maybe.
Yeah,
But it's like, like I said, that's a leap of faith, like grasping at straws.
yeah,
But I mean, Heidi gave it her all and like she tried, but like the things just didn't pan out,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't know where Heidi's going to end here. I think if Lauren does win immunity, maybe there's a chance. There, yeah, I think then we're losing either Carolyn or Heidi. I think we'll see if the Tika does turn on each other. I think Lauren has a chance of being because she's kind of the odd one out. So if they don't make the flip on Tika, I think Lauren is the more likely boot to go out next, unless she does win and immunity here, which but I'm glad for Lauren. I had a bit of a rough time in terms of the edits, and I feel like she's at least come on a little bit more near the
Yeah.
end of the season. So
Well, I mean, because there's not anyone left.
yeah, they got to give her something now.
Yeah, like which, I'm biased because I met some of these people. But like I got to talk to, Lauren for quite a bit, her and her boyfriend, and like, getting to know her, she was, really cool, very personable and stuff like that. So like part of me was like, damn, I wish I at the very least had you on my team for the draft. Now more so than ever. Uh but like, like anytime I would see like the edit and stuff and she wasn't there, I was like, oh, well, I wish I saw more of her on it. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's one of those things because the one guy I was telling you about, the Survivor fan that's a coworker, he messaged me something when it was like the other episode where she was at the sanctuary when she got her loved ones thing, and then she was talking about how she lost so much in life, and people underestimate her at every turn, but she proved not to. He texted me and he was like, "Winners in it right there," and I'm like, I did tell him later, I'm like, yeah, but she wasn't really very well represented prior to, I'd say, final eight or final nine.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing going against her. And like, yes, they could be doing a whole thing about subverting expectations and surprise, but I don't think that's the case. And I think a lot of people don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I also don't think that's the case because Jeff loves this season. And I think Jeff doesn't necessarily care about what goes on in the season. I think he cares about who wins the season more so than anything else. And by that logic, it makes me think that we're getting someone who Jeff views as a great winner. like someone that he thinks, wow, I'm glad that they get to be added into our catalog of winners. And by that logic, they've given a lot of the screen time to certain three people. Oh, clearly those three people are being viewed as great players. So it would be crazy to then have the season be like an Erica situation of just not being viewed for so long, and then suddenly like, bam, here she is.
I mean, at least with Erica, we saw more of her near at this point where, and then like we saw the turn when
Yeah,
Erica, like when we covered that season, I was like, oh, whoa, wait, I think Erica might actually pull this off. And
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
we
She
haven't
had
really,
obviously the hourglass stuff, and then like the last three episodes, I think her like confessional edit like spiked like big time in the last few episodes.
and then we
Whereas
saw the
Laura's
kind
not
of
really having
moves.
that.
Yeah, and then we saw like kind of the moves, strategic moves being played by her.
Yeah,
Whereas with Lauren, we haven't quite gotten that.
yeah.
So
Yeah, there's also a 3 episode go of zero confessionals for her. And I mean, I know a Ratu member isn't winning this game because they just didn't care about Ratu when Matthew left. They cared about Pika.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I want to go on real quick because we talked a little bit about the sanctuary. You just brought that up. What are your thoughts on the Survivor Sanctuary? Because I think some people, and at least in the community that I've been like listening into, is that they're getting kind of tired that all the rewards now seem to go to the sanctuary, or they just kind of eat food. Whereas we used to get helicopter rides, we used to get like excursions to other parts of the island. Now it's like you win a reward, go to the sanctuary.
You see, the part of me that is in showbiz when I watch the show, when it's specifically that, I'm like, okay, they're trying to save on the budget.
Mhm.
I see that. That's where my mind goes. It's one of those things. And I even thought of it when I saw, this episode where they went there. I'm like, oh, we're not getting all those like amazing prices we got in the past, or like, where they're on a boat, where they are getting the helicopter rides, or they're getting the boat thing. Uh, it's like I do see, okay, they are cutting their budget and stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I mean, like the reward challenges, while they're still fun and stuff, and it's cool seeing them get rewards. We all know that it's the immunity challenge that has the most stakes, but like, it's still something where I just look at it and I'm like, it's a way to save money and still
Yeah.
give them a luxury.
Yeah. I definitely would like them to not do the sanctuary all the time. I think it's gonna I think it kind of is like at the point a little like I kind of groan a bit whenever it's like going to the sanctuary. And by the way, this is episode 12 is the last hour-long Survivor episode, at least until Survivor 46. So a good thing to note, as because in next season, the fact that we're getting 90-minute episodes means we're probably going to be getting a lot more rewards shown.
Which I
Because
like.
yeah, because if you don't know, they do rewards a lot out there, but they don't show all of them. They only really show the rewards that they feel have some impact on the game and what's going to happen, or if they have time for it. But now that they have that extra 30 minutes or whatever, we're probably gonna be seeing a lot more rewards in our episodes. Just because even though we'd like to imagine, oh, we're gonna get a bunch more camp life and character stuff at camp, production's not gonna want to, rely on that. They're gonna want to
The
be like,
challenge.
okay, we gotta be doing something else here that's actionable.
Yeah, and especially like because like when he first told me that they do the rewards, they just don't show it. And this is back to me go thinking about productions and whatnot. It's like, man, they are wasting a lot of money on something that's not even being shown.
Yeah.
And because like these challenges, like they're not that simple in the sense of like, earlier challenges in Survivor, yeah, you didn't need all like the fancy obstacles and stuff. But because Survivor is Survivor now, like, they have all these setups, they have all these things. It's not as simple as like, oh, okay, we're gonna do a little quiz right now, or oh, okay, we're going to eat a bunch of stuff. It's like, complex puzzles, things like that, obstacle
Mhm.
course and whatnot. It's not that simple anymore, even from a production standpoint. So, like, the fact that we do see that, I think is a plus because, like, we get to see more of the challenges and we get more of the story, which I think is a good thing. I will say, and you brought up a very good point about, season 46 might not have hour 30 minutes. Part of this is due to the writer's strike that is going on with the Writers Guild of America,
Mhm.
which is why they're also expanding not only this, but Amazing Race as well to an hour 30 minutes to fill up those time slots. So it is, one of those things where, at least for this season, we are going to see that. Moving forward, it might depend on the response from the fans,
Mhm.
but, as long as what we're getting is good, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, yeah. I think this season is going to have a lot. I think it's going to decide the future of Survivor quite a bit. Is season 45. Um, so hopefully it's a good season because I do want 90-minute episodes. Yeah, I mean, whenever I look at what they have going right after Survivor, it's always garbage. It's always like the real Love Boat or Tough as Nails, and like let's just be honest, those aren't pulling good viewership numbers. Most of them are getting canceled after the season or two that they get. So like yeah, give Survivor, who is at least pulling decent viewership numbers, like give them that time slot instead.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah. Also recently, we won't go over it too much, but part of the cast has been revealed for 45. Obviously, we knew Bruce was going to be a part of it, which was
Yep.
cool. But seeing more of the faces, it's always exciting. I mean, by this time next week, well, actually, let me check. All right, well, maybe a bit more than this time next week. But when we're recording, but by the time this recording is down, a week from now, we will get a trailer for 45, and I think that's going to be cool. It's always exciting. The speculation, the analytics, the drafts we have, even if they don't pan out how we think. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited too, because this the season has just recently done finished filming. So they're unlike for the I believe it was 43 when we got the trailer for 43, we hadn't even know, like no one knew who was winning that season when it came out. Because they were literally like just starting filming. So they just finished on we're probably going to get at least a little more clearer of who they view as important players. So there'll be a little more kind of already early edits, like looking into that trailer to view, unlike 43, where they just had to kind of give us stuff.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think 45 would be cool. Obviously, and you know, tying in back to the whole Bruce thing, because this season was advertised as Co-Wrong 2.0, but we've only really had the two medical evacuations. And
Mhm.
at this point, with the final five and stuff, and the trailer for the finale not really alluding to anything like that, um, it is. I do feel like yes, the medevacs we got this season was kind of like they did definitely have like an impact on us emotionally, but like I will say it was kind of interesting going into the season and then what we actually got. Where I'm not saying false advertisement because there were medevacs and they hit hard,
Yeah.
but like it was something going into this season that we were kind of expecting.
Yeah. We basically just got a really bad first episode in terms of injuries. Like in terms of just like Bruce going down, Matthew going down, and Brandon going down. Like they all have their moments of like are like medical having to come in and help them.
Yeah.
But really after that, it wasn't that bad. Carson had a little bit of like I'm feeling a little sick, but they're usually not going to pull you for just feeling a little sick, like
No.
even if you're throwing up, like unless like you're throwing up and you can't even breathe because you're throwing up so much, like they're not going to do anything about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did feel like they wanted to sell us on this new school era is is just as dangerous and just as hard as I think the old school era. I think that's kind of what they wanted to kind of tell us, but it's just like, well, I think we just had a few people who had a bad draw at the beginning who just kind of got screwed a little bit.
I agree. I agree. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, they want to. I mean, we're cutting down a third of the days from 39 to 26. I
Yeah.
mean, this is like our second full year of like with that. And like, they still want to have at least the same kind of intensity, but because it's less days, they have to up the ante when it comes to that in order for the experience to be kind of relatable.
Mhm.
Because say what you want about Russell Hands, he did make a solid point when it came to 26 days versus 39 days, where it's like, well, it's hard to compare someone who played 26 days of Survivor than had to survive 39 days of Survivor.
Mhm.
Because like even though like you're going through a lot of hardcore stuff, no matter how fast paced the game is, your body and stuff gets a lot more damage out of 39 days than 26. So like production is like, yeah, well, we can't give them rice outright, or we can't baby them when it comes to some of these rewards.
Mhm.
Like there has to be like something to, try and balance everything out.
Yeah. Yeah, which I do think that it does affect a bit because we do get some, I think, worse rewards from it. Like it's like here's some fish. Like cool, that's cool. They get some fish, but we used to have rewards that were like really cool, eye catching. Like wow, I wish I could be doing this. But now a lot of the rewards don't feel like that. It feels like, oh yeah, if I was hungry, yeah, I would like that. Like that would be good, but I'm not, going crazy for stew.
I'm saying
Like
you wouldn't want to foot massage from this episode. They were
I mean,
getting all
like
getting they were
that's
all getting
fine.
massaged.
That's fine, but like it doesn't catch you as much as even if it was like a hot tub situation like how you have in like Cook Islands and everything, like at least that would feel a little more like okay, cool, they get a have this cool experience in a hot tub on the beach or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's I think we're at the point now where I am like I miss the old days of Survivor. Like I do miss the 39 days. I do miss them caring about each like aspect and making everything feel as big and larger than life that it could be. Whereas now it's a lot more downgraded a bit, downscaled, and trying to find ways to uh, have the same rating but lower budgets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things too, because like even when if we take it to like winner or not even winners at war, heroes versus villains and stuff, Survivor had evolved so much from the very first season. I remember watching a Watch Mojo video, and like it was like shows that have changed since its initial. It shows that's kind of like changed their concept since the beginning, and Survivor was on that list. And it's like, well, yeah, but like shows evolve and they kind of like age with the times and stuff. And you know, we're very fortunate that Survivor has gone on this long. And, because they still want to do it, they have to make cuts with some stuff. And I feel like them doing it rewards. I don't want to say it's like, like I would say, like, yeah, if you're gonna have to like cut out some stuff, rewards is probably where, like most people would be okay if eh, like if someone had to go, like rewards, like the fancy rewards is probably the thing that most people would rather give up.
Mhm.
But it still sucks that we're losing
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah, well, I think what sucks is that the fact that we are down 13 days, yet we're still cutting other things along with it. Like you're literally losing a lot of time of having to be out there. And then you're also like, okay, now let's also cut into the actual product itself, like the things that are actually going to be seen on the show. Because the
Yeah.
fact is, we don't see necessarily everything that's going on. Like it can still feel in a 26 day like things are like it doesn't impact us too much. But when everything is just a lower grade version of what we were used to, that's when it does actually make an impact on what we are viewing. There is definitely something to be said about taking out that extra few things that will be visible in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Um, even we're kind of hot. I think we're talking with this episode more so of like Survivor as a whole and like, this season as it is right now, which is typically what we do for like our final episode before the finale. But like, to kind of like go back to even when they were talking about like because in what was it, episode 11, we
Mhm.
saw the cage like drowning challenge basically, and we saw it again, and like this was something we thought that Survivor was going to retire. And I feel like this episode, granted, cast of 44 don't know the events of 43, so therefore they don't know that, oh wait, you can actually outlast this challenge.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's something that is still easier said than done because it's like the mental stress and stuff.
yeah, yeah. I do think they should have retired it. I think that 43 was just a way better bookend to the
Yeah.
challenge.
I mean, like, because after you see that, it's like no one's gonna top outlasting a challenge.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, and clearly they just did this because they hadn't seen it yet, and they probably already had it set up somewhere, and they didn't want to fill a challenge somewhere else, so they were just like, "We'll just do it again."
yeah,
But yeah, I would have way preferred for that to be for 43's version to be the like definitive
final.
we like a final chapter of the challenge. Like it would have been just way better in terms of the story, in my opinion.
Yeah, because you can't top people outlasting the challenge.
Yeah,
It's like it's one of those things where it's like, where do you go from there? And it's like there's nowhere to go. It's just you can't do the challenge anymore. Because like that's
yeah,
the new strategy. It's like and like I said, easier said than done to like trick your brain to have that mental strength because it is something of, I would say, even more than like, being able to hold your breath and stuff. It's the mental strength of being like, I will be okay and I can hold on.
yeah.
Uh, which, that's something that's extremely hard to do because, when your body panics, it does what it does sometimes instinctually. You have no control over it because your body is just going to do what it wants to in order to survive. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I see it and like it's a production thing. That's why
Yeah,
we're seeing it again. The
yeah,
fact that we saw it again at Final Seven was like production thing. They didn't have to change the paint.
Yeah, exactly. My friend who I was watching with it, he saw this challenge and was like, "This is messed up. They can't do this." I guess he thought that they couldn't like leave. He thought that they like had that they were like in a box, like a cage, and they were like stuck there. He didn't get the challenge. He was like, "They're just gonna die. They're gonna
Yep.
drown."
Yep. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um, I mean, we covered a lot of ground on, I would say, this season as a whole and the last two ones. Is there anything that you think that we should cover? I mean, like this one, we kind of touched on Lauren winning this one.
Yeah.
At the same
Yeah.
time,
We didn't cover too much about the Danny vote out. And I think
yeah,
we should probably talk about how he ends up going out here, where
other than
everyone votes tribal lines. Tika members all voted together, Soka members voted together, Ratsu members voted together, and it's a very baffling decision, at least in my opinion, for Lauren and Jamie to like they end up voting Heidi, and not like it feels like they could have been in a more of a swing vote situation by how things were going. And then they chose a third option that gave them
yeah,
nothing.
I mean, at that point, yeah, it did seem like yeah, Tika was like running things and like people wanted to kind of like mix things up. So a lot of it went to Ratu to kind of be like, oh, okay, like the narrative of that episode
Mhm.
did kind of suggest that, but they didn't follow through with it. It was more so like, okay, in case someone plays an idol or if they were trying to put votes on Heidi because it's like, all right, well, why not?
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. It's like I feel like that was the time to make a move. If I was in Lauren and Jamie's position, it's
mhm.
just it just didn't do it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's been the case of this season for pretty much everyone but the Tika.
Yeah,
Is they're just kind of not making moves. They're talking about making a move, but not doing it. It's so much like Go Silent in my honestly, this season has I think a very similar correlation to Go Silent in that way of this major power alliance who is just dominating the game, and then everyone else knows that they're dominating the game, yet they are like they're talking about we need to stop them from dominating the game, but can't seem to ever make a move.
they're yeah, they're
The
just like
idea of moves is like they're allergic to it or something.
well, I mean, like it's one of those things where they're afraid to put targets on their back, but at the same time, it's like 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 in episode 11, they're like, it's like, hey, in order to do this, you can't just play with, you know, safely. You have to put it all on the line, make bold moves. And the thing is, it's like Tika's just in the opportune position, so they're making these moves and kind of like deciding how the game goes. But no
Yeah,
one else is like the one that's like, no, we're going to defy that. Um,
yeah,
and that's why we're in the position we're in. Like, I don't mean to like downplay Tika at all because like if you do look at Jam Jam, you do look at Carson and Carolyn, they're a great cast and they are playing pretty decent games. It's just that we kind of want everyone we kind of want to see, everyone playing a great game and all that stuff, not just like these three. And then it's like, oh, it's
yeah,
going to be obvious that these three.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think it's just like we just want other people than one tribe
yeah,
being the ones to do. And this was what I was telling my friend was like the season's weird because it's like this one tribe is just in control of the game. Um, and everyone else is just a side character who only really appear when their storyline gets incorporated with one of those three players.
yeah,
And like normally, even if like one or two of these Tika members were having good screen time, normally we would have one or two other people from Ratu or Soka who at least final seven or so would feel like a real winner candidates.
Yeah.
But the difference has it has been so drastic between the top three and everyone else for pretty much the whole season. Like the only person who kind of was like maybe something was Franny, but I think that was more just people hoping that it was something other than Tika.
Yeah, I'll admit that.
Yeah.
And that's not to say there's anything wrong with Chica, but it's like, too much of a good thing, especially when we're not giving screen time to everyone else. It's like, it's like you want to care about the other people. Like, what makes a character or contestant great? Someone you can get behind and be like, oh, I root for them because of point A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And yeah, we get those, like with both Lauren and Heidi, it feels like we kind of got those, I don't want to say too little too late, but it was like it came so far into the season where it's like, all right, we're kind of getting this now because they're kind of a main character in a sense because they made it this far.
Yeah. Yeah, they're and it has really only been because they're in the finale right now.
Yeah.
If they were going out earlier, I mean, yeah, they probably even have less confessionals than they already do.
I mean, fuck, like, I know we talked about Lauren, but like Heidi was playing on silent for most of the pre merge.
Yeah,
Like, her confessional count was hella low, like the lowest of all people.
yeah. Same with Lauren. Those two going into the merge had the lowest confessionals,
Yeah.
and yet those are the two people who are now currently being opposed to the Tika three, who have the biggest confessionals.
Yeah.
Like that's just and I was noticing that as it kept going was like, man, this jury is now being consisted of all the people who at least they were giving some screen time to. And now it has just really gotten to the point where it's like, okay, well, uh now I guess we're just here with the people who the survivors literally told us they don't matter in the game.
Yeah. It's like we want to root for as many people as possible, or like, because that's like one of what makes a great season is like, oh, you have this such fantastic cast. And with this one, like in 43, I think we had a fantastic cast.
Yeah.
And like there were so many people you get behind. I feel like everyone shined in their own way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I feel like there's honestly potentially like eight returning players in 43. Like I think that there was a lot of great people to pull from.
Yeah. When it comes to this one, it's like I'm sure that a lot of them are great. Uh, like I said, for me going to the fan event by Bryson Wen presents, I know more, like I feel more attached to like Lauren and Jamie and like Heidi, more so Lauren and Heidi because they haven't gotten as much screen time as like Jamie. Just like getting to know them and stuff, and I'm like, man, like these people are interested. Like that shouldn't necessarily have to be the case. Where I'm like, I meet these people in real life to know, oh, how great they are. It's like, show
Mhm.
us how great they are. They beat
Yeah,
out thousands of people to get cast onto this show,
yeah,
regardless of how many times any of them have auditioned or anything like that, they beat out so many people. Casting decided to give them a spot. Let's see what they can do. I understand if they're an early boot, you don't want to give them that much screen time because it's like,
yeah,
why invest? But still, it's like, we have two people in the final five. And it wasn't until like the very, very last couple of episodes where we're like, okay, we do see a bit more of their backstory.
yeah.
And then it feels too little too late.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna just go into some confessional stuff right now, just because I think that this is just so mind-boggling how these confessionals are so far. So right now, Lauren and Heidi have 20 less confessionals than Carson, 30 less confessionals than Carolyn, and 40 less confessionals than Jam Jam. Like that is just crazy. Like that is like, well, it's weird because like the 26 and 27 professionals is actually like kind of solid for making a finale. But because there's just been such an emphasis on the other three, it just doesn't matter
it,
because
it pales
someone,
in comparison. Where
yeah,
it's like, oh, yeah, well,
yeah, exactly. Like it is, it just doesn't make sense. Like that you can't give at least one of these two players at least like a similar confessional or to the other three. Like, they can still be a little less, but like, come on, like you gotta make at least one of the other tribes seem like they have a chance.
yeah, exactly. Like like I've said before, Survivor, whoever wins, it's kind of like a who done it. We like to be surprised with the winner. We want a good ending. But if we know it's obvious who's going to win, and I'm not talking about, oh, it's an old season and Parvati wins this one, or Richard Hatch, you're going to watch it, is
Mhm.
going to win it, and you're watching it because, like, oh, you want to see how it was like. But, like, if it's obvious throughout and out, it's not as exciting,
Yeah,
you know, the stakes and stuff. Um,
yeah.
and I mean, I don't want to say that it's one of they're using this as a reason to make it an hour and 30 minutes long so they could do it, but it is something that with the extra screen time, because we did talk about the challenges and the rewards involved, let's say, take up about 10 minutes
Mhm.
of screen time. So, like, excluding like commercials and stuff, we take 8 minutes out of the extra 30 minutes plus the 10. So we got 12 minutes. And I'm being I would say that I'm being generous with the amount of time we give to the challenge and the reward. Like we got like 12 minutes of, like, either other tribal lives, getting to know the cast more, things like that. Um, I don't know, like, because, and this is not just my thing about the show, but like just movies in general. A long, of like a longer runtime and stuff. If the pacing is good and what you're seeing is good, it doesn't matter as much. So,
Mhm.
like, as long as the content we're getting is good, you know, tell your story at the pace you think it needs to be told to make it the best that it can be told. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I am hopeful that more time will at least prevent something like this from happening, and at least that cast can hopefully feel like they're getting a lot more character moments, and we get to connect a lot more with more of the cast. Because yeah, right now, if I were to pick like potential returning players, I mean, what, you got the Tika three, and I think Matt and Franny should only come back for a Blood versus Water, like, or at least for their next go. Like, if I would say they should hold out until we get a Blood versus Water 3, because
yeah,
that I think that's the best way for them to return to Survivor.
I can
Um,
see, I can see someone come, like, because sometimes in All Star seasons, there's that one person where it's like, wait, what season were they from?
mhm.
There's always like that one person where you kind of have to look up who they are.
Yeah,
I can see someone from this season getting that kind of like slot where it's like, wait,
yeah,
who are they? Like
yeah.
if
I
they,
could see Lauren being the Sierra Don Thomas, or the
yeah,
Haley, or where it's like, oh, okay, I guess they made it here.
yeah.
Um, but
There's
yeah,
a few I can.
but
I want to say,
that's like being that's putting them into a situation of like, I don't even think that they're really going to get put on. Whereas I think in 43, I said like there's 8 people who I could bring on. Like, I would say that none of those eight would be a Sierra Don Thomas. Like, I would say like, yeah, I could totally see them wanting to see this person again.
yeah, I agree. Not cast filler,
Yeah,
but I mean,
yeah,
like, not to downplay Lauren or anything. Like I said, I like her, but
yeah.
like,
Yeah, I'm, would have picked her if my winner pick if I did this the way that I would have normally done. So I was rooting for her. I'm glad she's got 2 immunity wins on her belt and made it to the finale. But like she's just not going to be super memorable. Like when people look at this season, who's thinking, "Wow, Lauren Harp played a stellar game." She was the person who I was just constantly in love with on the screen. Like there's just not going
Well,
to
I
be.
kind of am, but for different reasons. But anyway, but yeah, it is one of those things where it's like, who are the fan favorites, and we've talked about this not in just this episode, but in the past few episodes. You know, it's the glaring issue of this season.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, let's get back real quick to just ending the episode 11 stuff. What are your thoughts on Carolyn using the idol on Carson?
She pissed it away, plain and simple. She wasted it.
So this is an interesting concept actually that I believe is the right move for her. And it's all about numbers. Is and the fact is that at certain thresholds, it is more important to save your people than necessarily playing something correctly. And I think that, and I was saying this, a while back, that 7 is going to be a very important number for Tika. If Tia can get to 7 and survive 7 together, they're going to be in a great position moving forwards.
Yeah.
And I think Carolyn recognized this and knew that one of the people being talked about was Carson. And instead of trying to just keep her idol for herself and potentially losing that ally, which would have been a crucial loss for her game, she decided to use it so that way they can move forward 2 with 6 to the point where, okay, Tika now has complete control, and they can be the ones actually in a situation to get to the final 3 pretty safely. Like if they wanted to now stick together, they have just the clear option to at least get the final 4. And so yeah, I actually think it is the right move, even though in like when people like put in the stats and everything about Carolyn, as they didn't actually, it wasn't the correct move, or it didn't negate enough votes. I think it's still the better option.
I would, after seeing this episode, the one that came out May 17th,
Mhm.
if we were doing that, if we were doing this episode, or like if we were talking about episode 11, the day after episode 11 came out, I would kind of be more on your side. But since we're doing them both back to back,
Mhm.
and just like me, I remind you, the beginning of this episode, episode 12, we were just slammed with like Carolyn kind of not, downplaying her move. And then also like, oh yeah, I didn't tell anyone about this. Oh yeah, I
Mhm.
knew it from the beginning. I had this for so long, and keep talking about it, drawing attention to it. And then it just put a bigger target on her back, so much so where it's like, granted, Jam Jam and Carson don't always like put her on the top of their priority list when it comes to including her and whatnot. But now they're, like even more so this episode, we're considering of getting rid of her.
Yeah.
Like I know Jamie goes out here, but I was like half expecting Carolyn to go home at this
Yeah.
point.
So here's another interesting thing that I think is actually good for her. I actually think it was good for her to talk up her game, because of who she is in as a person, and the fact that people viewed her for the entire game up until she plays the idol for Carson as someone who we're just bringing to the end. She doesn't know what's going on in this game. She's an easy beat. Like that's what everyone was thinking, which sure you can get the end that way and be the third place boots or the third place finisher. You're not winning the game like that. But around 7 or 6 has always, in this new era, is the point where the big players make the big move to basically win the game. And she took into herself, like, I'm going to make a big move. I'm now going to make this be known as the move of the season. And, it makes the path a little harder for her for Final Three, but it makes it so that if she gets to Final Three, she's no longer going to be seen as the easy beats where Carolyn could have said all these great things of how she played the game, but no one would have believed her if she just starts saying it at Final Tribal. But now she has way more like acumen to be able to say, like, look at this, I was playing a good game. Don't you remember all these things that I did to get here?
Yes, but also no. I feel like, look, I mean, like, you can't play. You're always going to make mistakes in any game you play, and it's how you recover. But it's like maybe that puts her above. Yeah, I mean, like she's already in my eyes, above like Lauren and Heidi. That's a given at this point. But like misplaying the idol, if she played it right, and let's say Carson was going home, that's something where it was like, all right, that makes it go above and beyond. Right now, she's still at where she's at on the totem pole, I feel.
Yeah.
Whereas if, okay, if she made that move and then made it to final three, it's something where it's like, oh, okay, now she has a legitimate like reason where Carson can be like, oh, like I did this, this, and this, and this, where there was no on the outside fault. Because like, we talk about misplaying idols and stuff, and like it's like kind of like how Heidi misplayed her idol. And I understand that it's totally different circumstances, but a misplayed idol is a misplayed idol where it's like, okay, either A, you put it back into there for whomever to get, or
Yeah, but
B,
the thing is, Heidi plays her idol, but isn't at a crucial number. Like it for her crucial number wasn't that vote. It was way earlier that she needed to have done moves to actually get herself into a power position. Carolyn and Tika's number was specifically number 7, because that was because they're a three person alliance. You have to at least get to 6, and at 6, then you can be like, we're strong alliance and someone's gonna budge, which ends up happening with Heidi. Whereas Heidi in this situation was at final 6, where she had told that she was on with the major alliance and then waits her idol. Like that is a misplay idol because it serves her no purpose other than she now lost power. But with Carolyn, it is important to have her alliance together for a crucial vote, so that way it's moved on one forward. So I honestly wouldn't classify it as a misplay. I think it was using the idol in a way that's different than what we're used to. We're used to seeing it used as it has to negate enough vote for it to work. And I actually think that's not necessarily always the case. I think that it's more important to look at numbers and statistics of where the game is at its current state, more so than how many votes get negated.
true, but I feel like at this point we're just kind of like, oh, it's like I feel like we're giving more to a move. We could possibly reading way more into the move and like, oh, thinking it is a great move when it's a subpar move.
Maybe
Like,
I think that if Tony Blockos makes this move, I think we say it's great. I think we say that people that this was such a great move because he has got himself into a great spot moving forward into the game. But because Carolyn does it, who is seemingly we don't really know if she's there. I think that's how it almost feels. It makes it feel a little more like, oh, she must have just wasted it, which
all
I
right,
don't think is the case.
counter argument. If we
Uh,
want to use a player, not necessarily Tony Blockos, but we're going to go with another big player. Let's go with Russell Hantz, who the first time he uses his idol that he did kind of piss it away. And then,
Mhm.
like, granted, it made it that the fact that, oh, wait, he found one the very next episode or the next couple episodes when he was like vulnerable, all the more shocking because he found another one, you know, it did, but like either way, a misplayed idol is a misplayed idol, an emphasis on misplayed. Like, it is something where, yeah, Russell recovered from that misplay, but he still misplayed an idol.
Yeah, I understand. I think maybe you're not just understanding my whole concept of the specific scenario. But every player has a critical moment that to be fair, that really wasn't necessarily Russell's critical moment because his Natalie and all of them were able to get the moves onto I think his name was Eric. Well, I forgot what his name
Eric,
was.
Shannon, something.
Yeah, one of those names. But like that really wasn't critical because it was already something that's happening. Like it wasn't as important. It really was like they needed to get rid of one of their own people. So whatever. It was the next vote, which is the critical moment where he does get the correct idol play. But just because he gets the correct idol play there, I don't think it's necessarily the important part. It's the fact that he is guaranteeing himself to have his alliance move forward one extra votes and be able to get themselves into that power position, which is what Carolyn essentially does here. Just it doesn't have that one extra vote to get the full negation. It's just she knew Final Seven is the most important parts of the Tika game. And she was able to know they're not going to vote for me because they all think I'm crazy. Jam Jam won immunity. Carson is the only person who could potentially really get taken out here. I'm going to secure our spots into final six and get it for ourselves that critical, progression.
I get what you mean, where it is like a smart move. However, it kind of
I think it's a concept that means you got to look super deep into where everyone is in the game. It's really hard to like kind of just say, if you look at something from like a singular votes, yeah, you could look at it and say that doesn't make sense. Like, oh, she wasted it. But if you look at it from everyone's game of when each vote is important, that was her important vote. And she had the opportunity to make sure that no matter what anyone says, no matter what anyone does, they are going to be together.
true, but I know we talk about idle plays, but sometimes when a person doesn't play the idle, when they don't need to, when we all have that reaction of like, oh my God, why didn't they play that before the votes are read? Where it's like, are you crazy? Why wouldn't you play your idol now? It's all about the situational awareness. And Carolyn doesn't always know what's going on. And granted, that's also because not everyone tells her everything. So I don't necessarily fault her too much with that. And I get wanting to secure your numbers, but because she played the idol, I don't like I saw it and I'm like, I don't think it's as grand as a move as some people saying they are. Even when they did in that episode, yeah, they were talking. I think people were more surprised that she actually found the idol than the
Yeah.
fact that she played the idol.
Yeah.
And I think,
Okay, I'm gonna walk through now two scenarios that happen if she doesn't play the idol. So scenario one, which is worst case scenario, which is why you play it, obviously, is that Lauren and Jamie make the correct move. This is the move that they should have made and take out Carson. You are now down to Jam Jam and Carolyn. They do not have the power in the game. Suddenly they're like, okay, we're taking out Jam Jam in this next episode. And Carolyn plays an idol, which no one is going to take out Carolyn at Final Five. So she has a misplayed idol anyways, and then she just gets to the end and is considered a ghost. Okay, that's the worst case scenario that would have gone down for her. The other scenario is, Carson doesn't get voted out. But guess what? Now she has an idol that is not going to be needed because they have the power at this point, anyways. And so now she's going to have an idol that she either doesn't play and doesn't get a big move, or she misplays it just like she had done previously and gets the end and isn't considered a player because she never had like a move that seems like her own and gets third place. So like she needed to have a move here. Otherwise, she's kind of locked into being a third place or some weird wacky way she goes out of fire. But most likely she's brought to the end and is considered the goat of the season. But by doing this move, even though it seems like the numbers aren't there, it is at least a move that now people are recognizing her as a game player and is giving her the chance to get to the end in a way that's not going to just give her third place.
I promise I'm not trying to die on a hill just for the sake of our argument and
Yeah.
be like, oh, I don't want to admit I'm wrong. It's just, I do understand it's something where it was a move that showed people that she was playing the game. But if anything, that just put a bigger target on her back. And then
I would
it
way
even got her
rather,
own alliance questioning, okay, do we actually keep her at this point? Because she might actually win this shit.
yeah, I would
So
way rather always put a target on your back near the end of the game and have a chance of winning than just be the easy third place boot to or a third place finisher who just is kind of looked at as this crazy person who no one respects at the end. I would rather have the big move that at least if she goes out at 5 or 4, people are at least looking at her as, wow, Carolyn, you played a good game instead of you, what were you doing out there?
that's the same argument could be made for Gabler at this point. Like
Yeah, Gabler won the season because he at least he was able to get rid of the final the three big threats. Like he had at least some kind of like gameplay going on with him. Like he is like I think he definitely deserved the win over Cassino like significantly. And sure,
for Owen,
Jesse
yeah,
would
but
have been a
like
good winner, but that's not how the game is. Like, he was able to still take out the biggest threat in the game at Final Four. Like,
over Owen, yeah. I mean, how late do you want to stay up, man? Uh, it's one of those things where it's like we'll find out next week if it was actually a good move or not. I think it's something where it does her more harm than good.
yeah,
Even
I
if it's something that secures yourself, like playing an idol at 5, like why not? Because like might as well get yourself there, even if you're not a threat. Why not? Like that's totally fine. And it's kind of like the same principle. I get where you're coming from when you're saying that, where it's like making sure your number gets there, but not playing the idol sometimes, it's like when to hold them, when to fold them. It's like, misplaying an idol is still a misplay.
Yeah, but I think holding idols now is also considered a misplay. Xander, well, people like bashed him for doing nothing with his idol for the entire game. People bashed Dean for not using any of his advantages at the end of the game. Um, I think it's way better to at least use them at important junctions of the game than to just end up not using them or reusing them at Final Five, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, I guess you did play an idol then, or oh, you just have some joy.
I mean, if we're talking about, yeah, I mean, not ending up in like, oh, I didn't do that. But I mean, here's the thing about the idol. If people aren't willing to split votes, that idol grants you security. And yeah, we kind of saw that with like when the idol was broken back in Exile Island and Cook Island, where it was like, oh, like if you get voted off, you just show them the idol, and then oh, you're not voted off. It's the person with the second highest votes. But it's something where at the very least with like, Xander, he did use that as kind of like a thing as like incentive not to vote for him. With Gene, yeah, he had a bunch of things where it didn't quite pan out for him when it came to that. But I don't know. I feel like it's one of those hypotheticals where we don't know because we're not in the circumstances where she would play it at 5 or something to make a move. So we're just kind of left wondering, all right, does this pan out for her in this timeline that we are in? And it's like right now, regardless of her getting the number there, right now her numbers are thinking of taking her out.
Yeah, but they didn't. They still chose to be with her.
For
Like this would have been a the perfect time to take out Carolyn. The fact that they still have decided that they're going to keep her around for Final Five is still, important. And I know you're saying she has a target now. She could go out earlier than what she would have, but I would way rather you make your big move and go out early than to take the goat slots. Whenever I just see someone die and say I'm just going to be the goat, it's upsetting. It's never good to just see someone like accept that position. And Carolyn chose not to. That's more than I can say about most people who go out there. Like a lot of people would be totally okay with just sitting back and letting the game play. But Carolyn is, thinking about the game, I think, on a much different level than I think a lot of people would imagine.
true.
So, yeah, yeah,
There's a
I think we can agree to disagree on this point because
Yeah, because we will go.
clearly clearly we
Well,
have very different thoughts on how that move turned out.
yes, very much so, and we're making the same points too, or at least I am, but
Yeah,
like doing it in a different way that I'm trying to get through your head.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, it's because I was saying honestly back in like the I think like final 10, I would saying peak is important and crucial vote is going to be a final 7 if they get there. And they got there, and Carolyn made sure that they got through that crucial vote, which is super important. So, so yeah, we can move on. That was a very long talk about episode 11. Kind of talk about episode 12.
I mean, we covered a lot of the bases of that, Lauren winning, them discussing whether or not to get, you know, like basically whether or not Tika was going to turn the reward challenge, the people that won the reward was two of the Tika members, not Carolyn,
Yeah.
and then Lauren, and that was that three. And then like, obviously when you're on reward, you guys are
It felt
talking.
like it's such a like misbalanced team. Like it literally was the three people who have won an immunity and the three worst challenge people going against. Like it was comedically like like if you just took like one of those other three and just switched out, it would have felt a little more balanced.
I mean, that's the gamble when it comes to a random draw.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. I just kind of saw that and was like, well, I'm sorry, Carolyn, Heidi, and Jamie, you're not going to the sanctuary.
Yeah. Other than that, with this episode, I think I don't want to say it's an oversimplification of it, but I do feel like this episode definitely boils down to it's like, all right, everyone is thinking about the end. They are thinking about Tika, but can we actually take Tika down? And then, even Tika is wondering, do we take, it will not just specifically like, it is Jam Jam and Carson being like, all right, do we get rid of Carolyn now? I feel like Jam Jam is probably like I give him MVP of this episode because like, he is pretty much in the power position and I feel like he
Yeah,
has so much pull in here and his name's not even being talked about anymore.
yeah,
Or at least to the point where they're serious about it. Um but yeah,
Yeah, I think this episode, I'd probably say it was one of my least favorite merge episodes of the season so far. It felt to me a little like clear cuts. Not necessarily that Jamie's going home, but like it just felt like Tika's had such a good edit. Like I just felt like there's no way that we're losing a Tika member pre-finale. And then once Lauren wins immunity and Heidi has said, I'm jumping ship and joining the Tika. Like to me, it felt like, okay, I think Jamie's going home here. And they really did try to play up, like the potential flip. But I think that was a little bit of just jam, like trying to play up the moment and kind of give it a little extra bells and whistles, more so than that it was actually going to carry out here.
Probably. I mean, I do think, like I said, there is merit, obviously,
Yeah.
taking out Carolyn.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I feel like Tika, kind of like in the similar vein of 43, where it's like, all right, because Tika as a unit is a threat
Yeah.
because they ran so much. If any one of them gets to the end,
Yeah.
they're a threat because just for what they did since the merge of like being the swing vote and navigating themselves so far. So it's almost like they do have to kind of stick together in order to make it to this point. Because like if they cannibalize Carolyn, then it's the two Tika boys against, three of the other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, it could be easy to get rid of one or both of them due to the votes and the numbers. Oh, Jam Jam doesn't win. Like if Jam Jam or Carson doesn't win the final five, they're not able to find that idol. Okay, we get rid of one of them. And even if one of them wins fire, it's still like a 1 in 3 shot against two people. But I mean, like, there's more opportunities to get rid of the person when there's only two of you as opposed to like a three, where it's like, all right, let's
Yeah.
just go against Tika.
Yeah, so it's a lot similar to how 43 was, where Cody, Carla, and Jesse were clearly the front runners. Like if
Yeah.
any one of those three make it to the end, they're beating anyone else in the game. Um, and but we see at final six, Cody goes out, then it's a very easy take out Carla, take out Jesse, and then
Yeah.
bam. But by keeping all three Tika members for final five, it's still possible to take out Tika member at 5 and 4, and then be the last Tika standing. Or you now have a very easy path to take all Tika members at the end and battle it out in a Tika final three. Like at least both scenarios, if you're confident in how your game has been played, could potentially get you to that final seat.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I do think it is the right move, even though like if you were like looking at a resume move, Carolyn would have been the bigger resume move, but not necessarily the better move to set yourself up for a win.
Yeah. I agree. Um, yeah, I feel like honestly that's just where the position we're in. It's like, you know, we're all in this together and I will give them this over, the 43 peeps being the three big threats going into final six there with Cody, Carla, and Jesse, where it's like, we've even seen this done before in these kind of like competitions, not just Survivor, where it's like, the meat shield strategy, but it's also something where it's like the double or triple meat shield strategy, where it's kind of like you both need each other because you're both each other's target. And so therefore you have this impenetrable shield because you both make something where it's like, well, we can't target either one of each other. So we have a mutual shield where we shield each other and we can make it to the end because like, you do see this all the time where it's like who will once this one person is gone, who fills the void as the target?
Mm-hmm.
And there is the thing of like the void of the target where it's like, okay, well, who is next? Where having that target around is like, I don't want to say a necessary evil because it's not like an evil. It's just more
Mhm.
so like a designated position where it's like, all right, this person is the big target. But if we get rid of that target, they're going to go after the next person in line instead of like, okay, well, if we keep this person around, maybe we get rid of a Jamie. Maybe we get rid of a Danny or Franny, or Annie if she's on this season to complete the, Dr. Seuss rhyming. But it's like one of those things where it's like instead of, going after Jam Jam, we go after these smaller ones because like if Jam Jam goes or Carolyn goes, uh-oh, they're gonna realize I'm a threat, more of a threat, because I'm one of the biggest threats that's left.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it is the right move to make that. But yeah, I am interested though to see how this final five ends up going because I mean there's clearly three people who are looking like the winner candidates, and then so I yeah, it's just which Tika members winning the game. That's
Jam
really,
Jam. My vote is on Jam Jam.
yeah, I think Jam Jam's the most likely. I would go Jam Jam, then Carolyn, then Carson. Um,
I'd go Jam Jam, Carson, and Carolyn.
I'm only saying that because I feel like Carson hasn't gotten the emotional content. He's gotten a lot of the strategic content. But even then, it feels more like he's being set up as he's been set up as this like
As the four.
as a really good player, but it's not necessarily winning the game.
I didn't see that.
Whereas Jam Jam and Carolyn have gotten a lot of good personal content. They've gotten a lot of strategic content. They're always being talked about by everyone. Carson has honestly kind of like no one's talking too much about Carson anymore. He's kind of like he's there playing the game, but if anyone's talking about anyone, it's either Carolyn or Jam Jam.
I feel part of that is also part of Carson's strategy because him going out there, that was one of the things that he was trying to do as well to manage his threat equity in that way.
Yeah.
So that is part of it at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's doing that, but even so, the editors would still find moments of people talking about him and find ways because when they do confessionals, they ask everyone, "What are your thoughts on this player? What are your thoughts on this player? What are your thoughts on this player?" And so they have definitely footage of people talking about Carson, and they're not using it.
Fair point. Fair point.
Um, okay. What else is there to talk about? So I think we're pretty much done, right?
Yeah, I mean, LVP, unfortunately, I have to give it to Heidi for misplaying an idol. And as you like to point out, it's like it's nothing that even advances her game or something like that either. Um, it's just also it's like I feel like her and Lauren, it's just there's
They're just
snowball's chance
fodder.
snowball's chance in hell that either of them win.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. Like I like going into finale thinking, oh, like anyone could win it. But
Yeah.
like I'm just not feeling that going into this where it could be anyone's game.
Yeah. Literally at Final Six, they needed Jamie still in the game. Because they needed they really had to be at a Lauren Heidi Jamie like Final Three for any of them to have a chance to win the game.
Yeah,
And now that they're guaranteed to be sitting next to a Tika member, I mean, why would the edit look like this if that's the case?
exactly. All
Uh,
right. Yeah. Um, other than that, yeah, we went over our winners for next or our winner picks or who we think's we're gonna win in that regard. So yeah, I think we covered pretty much everything.
yeah. Oh, I guess I didn't do the confessional numbers. I just kind of talked about the differences a little bit.
All right. Shoot.
Okay, so Jam Jam has 68 confessionals as the
Wow.
confessional leader. He had 10 confessionals this episode. Um, and then Carolyn is second with 56 confessionals, so 12 behind Jam Jam. And then Carson has 49 confessionals. And then we go all the way down to 27 with Heidi and 26 with Lauren. Um,
Wow. So
yeah, Jamie though, she does go out with 35 confessionals at the end, so I will mention her. So she had a fair share tied with Danny, who I felt like Danny was a big force for a good part of the season at least.
yeah, still
Yeah,
like we've said so much throughout this season. The like Thanos is rolling over in his dusty grave, like the imbalance with all of this. It
yeah,
is so imbalanced.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jeff, well, I don't know why this is in your opinion way better than 43. They have been dunking on 43 in their podcast. They're saying like they love the season way more than 43. And it is
I,
so weird.
I disagree.
I think
I
most
rate
people yeah, disagree with their sentiments.
I'm like 43 is like leagues better than it. Like I don't know
Yeah,
where I'm gonna rank 44. It will depend on the finale and who wins.
yeah,
But 43 I think is a mid-tier season or
yeah,
like mid-high season. But this one I'm like, all right, this is like mid or low.
yeah,
And it's not even a thing of like, oh, it's like a bad season. It's just more so of like with everything kind of going on, like when you stack it up to like other seasons, like let's say the Australian Outback, um, you know, w- Winners at War, or Africa, things like I don't think there's not too much to make this like an iconic season where it's like, oh yeah, yeah, this,
yeah,
other than like the Tika members. There's
yeah.
nothing that really like cements this as like, wow, yeah, remember 44?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, if I had to make my gut call, I'd probably put this in around like 32 or 34 out of 44 seasons. Like it's probably going somewhere there. 43, I would probably say 25, 26, just kind of off of a gut instinct of where I would place those ones. So there's yeah, it's bizarre, but and that's because I think we are getting a winner that Jeff loves, and clearly they the three Tika members I think are great players. Like I think that they are great characters. It just because we have gotten all the screen time on them, it feels it's just too much.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
regardless,
What?
it's been a fun season.
Yeah.
This despite that. And
I'm I'm definitely ready now for the season though to be over so we can get back to our brand deal because we did
oh
that
yeah,
drama one and that was a lot of fun. And I'm excited to get back into that.
yeah, I told Joe this. I kind of broke a rule of mine. But because we did that one, I just got so excited in the like spirit of Total Drama. Even I watched two of the first two episodes of the new Total Drama because I was just like, oh man, I was inspired by our Brand Steel because it was that good. I'm like, oh, I need something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the summer is coming up, so we're gonna have a bunch of like content for you guys. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, for this one that that does it. And I guess we'll see you guys in the next one.